We've got Sam Black here to talk about Jeskai Fires, the deck that you've chosen to bring to this tournament. Why did you want to bring it?
I chose this deck because we were winning the most with it, honestly. It's like, I guess it attacks the format in a pretty different way than most of the other decks. Like, the decks are all very much like, you know, everyone's playing green, everyone's playing things that answer green cards. So by not playing green, you make a lot of your opponent's cards worse. And then I think kind of more importantly than making their cards worse, you just like attack them from the wrong angle and make their strategy not line up the way they were expecting. So this just like attacks in a very different direction. You like go over the top in a different way.
All right, well, let's take a look at the way that we do go over the top. Do you think the format is in a good place where you can cast these and feel pretty okay about that, pretty safe?
Yeah, so if you don't have Fires of Invention, you have to actually spend the mana for these, which is kind of like the fail state for the deck. And I mean, these cards were designed to give you 5 mana worth of value. Like, these are, you know, mythic creatures that have like good numbers and good abilities. So your like fail state where you just spend 5 mana to cast these is generally totally fine. It's not as explosive, but like often the reason that you have to do this is because your opponent has spent their time answering your fires, or maybe your draw had a lot of previous interaction to get to the point where you can do this. So like you're generally like, you know, maybe you didn't have fires because you had sweepers and answers to the stuff they're doing, and then you cast these and you have time, and it's all fine. And the mana is actually like remarkably good for being able to hit the blue, blue, blue or red, red, red.
Okay, well, let's take a look at some of the answers that you have in this deck to your removal and Deafening Clarion, a full 4 copies, to Fairy Time Raveler, and 1 copy of Time Wipe. Yep. So I think Deafening Clarion seems like a good card to have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that sometimes there are an above average number of 3/3 creatures on the battlefield for whatever reason. Deafening Clarion obviously also just slots very smoothly into the curve. I talked about how I want to cast Shimmer on turn 2 and Fires on turn 4, and then just spend the rest of my time doing Cavaliers. That means that I have this gap on turn 3 that I'm filling with Deafening Clarion and Fairy Time Raveler, both of which are generally pretty good at buying a turn, buying 2 turns, slowing your opponent down somewhat to like set up this kind of slower over-the-top plan.
And a nod to the rest of the metagame here in the next couple of cards we're going to take a look at here, Ether Gust and Mystical Dispute, right?
Yeah, so I guess when I got my hands on this deck, people were playing cards like Shock and Bone Crusher Giant in like these slots, if you think about the deck that way. And I was just like, look, we know what we're being attacked by.
Yeah.
If we're trying to play like some interactive cards to buy time, why don't we just do the ones that are best at doing that against the things that we're going to expect? And this is what I'm saying about how, you know, the advantage to being a deck that's playing blue and red creatures is that, well, not Aether Gust specifically, but like Noxious Grasp doesn't hit them. The format is such that most people are, you know, targeting green cards specifically, or targeting green and blue cards because they're green and blue planeswalkers that people are expected to show up with. Yeah, as it turns out, I just think that the format's in a place where the best way to buy time against blue-green decks is with the blue hate cards for blue and green cards.
I have to ask you, though, no Fae of Wishes here in this deck.
That's kind of like that's like almost the big innovation. That's like, so my considerations in playing this deck, the numbers from recent Grand Prix of this deck's win percentage against Oko were actually pretty scary, but I took some assurance in the fact that all forms of Jeskai Fires were lumped together, and that includes builds that have Fae of Wishes. And I think that the Fae of Wishes is just kind of like too slow and clunky and makes it easier for the like more proactive rest of the format decks to just get under you. And I found that like Cavaliers are just what you want to be doing, and you want to like have fires to do it. And so Shimmer of Possibilities in place of Fae of Wishes just sets up very consistently doing this more reliable over-the-top plan rather than having this like more kind of interesting interactive Fae of Wishes plan, but ultimately like the cute things you can do with that aren't as good as just jamming Cavaliers. And you also have to lose most of your sideboard to enable the Fae of Wishes.
Right.
So getting to have a real sideboard is another nice feature, and just skipping on Fae of Wishes entirely.
All right, well, let's quickly take a look at your mana base here. Castle Vantress, I just want to call out as another thing to do with your mana when you're not doing anything with your mana.
Right, that's there very much to, complete the triple your mana experience and just to make sure that you can keep playing Cavaliers if your opponent's in a spot where they can answer some of them.
All right, let's take a look at some of your other lands you're playing in the deck here. Hallowed Fountain, Sacred Foundry, a one of, and Steam Vents, and of course the basics to round out the deck. How are you feeling going into the weekend?
I feel pretty good. My team has been winning a lot online with this deck. Obviously, playing against Oko a reasonable amount. I do think that there's an extent to which, Pro Tour players might be appreciably more proficient with the Oko deck. So I don't know for sure that our testing is, going to hold exactly as it has, but if it's within the ballpark, we should be well positioned.
Awesome. Jeskai Fires, Sam Black, thank you so much.